Hi there, Cosmic Family. My name is Jahliali. In this incarnation, we have the moon in Capricorn already, and tomorrow it is the full moon. So today in Argentina, July 9th, we commemorated the Independence Day. And beyond the historical process that leads us to remember this day, now we are experimenting as a collective a phase that goes beyond this kind of moments in history. And if we think about the concept of independence, there are two signs. I am not referring to the people that are incarnating these signs, but the zodiacal energies that are very related with the independence in different ways. One of them is Aries and the other one is Capricorn. Both very present in this lunation because Saturn, the regent, it is together with Neptune retrograde in Aries. So Capricorn represents this capacity of construction and sustain at the service of autonomy. And if we think in a human being life, in an appropriate framework, because without going to the individual experience or the social context, and without generalizing, because what I'm going to mention is actually far away from many people's experiences. But let's suppose that the child learns to assume responsibilities according to its age, to put in order his or her things, to dress alone, to regulate his or her emotions, to deal with frustration when things aren't going the way he is expecting, to think for himself, to question external voices, to account on other people when it is truly necessary, and to offer that help, everything that can incorporate in order to turn into an adult with a maturity degree that allows him to sustain himself in several levels, and to sustain other people, because this is also necessary. So in fact, the famous Saturn return that we talk in astrology, that many people have fear of going through, this occurs when we are 29, 28 years old. It is precisely about that. It is going to depend of the degree of incorporation of Saturn that we have, but it is a phase where we are going to grow, and there is nothing to fear if we are willing to be responsible for what we are experimenting and the decisions that we are assuming. But when we talk about the path of the soul, this construction of autonomy doesn't occur only for the service of oneself or for our material goods. It is to contribute to a collective construction. And here, I think that we socially didn't get to this point. We are in that process. Because in order to connect with that, we came here to contribute. Necessarily, we need to do this seeking of reconnection with the soul, with oneself, and with the path that is going to push us to leave behind structures of security in an infinite way. There is no end with this. So, as I was saying, the practice regarding these passages that I was describing related to the transition from the child to an adult, this doesn't occur for everyone. In fact, a great amount of adults of today, because of the kind of familiar and cultural structures, they have to learn to raise themselves. To deal with a lot of aspects that I mentioned that were experimented in lack or in a very restricted way. This is something very related with Saturn. This means that these things, we have to remember that these things, we experimented them as part of our own evolutionary process, but also human. The collective maturity can only occur when the individuals are incarnating it and they are extracting a learning from the previous processes. This is the reason for what many adults have, high degrees of immaturity. I'm not saying this from a judgment, because, as I said, at the same time, these imbalances that many of us incarnated, including myself, we have chose them to incorporate this experimental wisdom and to take the collective to the next level. So, as I said, it is important to learn what the previous generations experimented. It is important to learn about that, taking what can serve and changing or transforming what's not, because not all the things are to leave behind. For example, I'm not going to expand a lot myself in this because it would be very, very, very long. But the familiar structure, more traditional, if you want to, for many, many reasons, from relationship imbalances and needs of the modern life and influences also of the axis of power, started to break. And I think that is a structure that really nourishes a lot our society for many reasons, and there are studies that actually contribute with this that you can investigate. Obviously not conformed as in other times, from wanting to accomplish a mandate, to accomplish an exigency, leaving aside our inner peace or the integrity of the people that are participating of that structure. But also we have to take in account that sustaining something like that is very difficult. Sustaining something like that with the things that are required, in order to flow with that structure, it is very difficult doing that without a community accompanying us. And I am seeing this a lot. There is a lot of people reconnecting with the need of the community, not as a hippie style of life. I've gotten anything against hippies. But I think as part of a polarized reaction of the previous generations, it turns into an imbalance that went towards a libertinage. But at the same time was like a try of new forms of freedom, and we can learn about something that we can learn something about that too. But I am talking about people that are truly connecting with the need of this circle, that can really help them to sustain not only familiar structures but other kind of structures in a healthier way, to not to not collapse of exigencies, because we cannot connect with a spiritual dimension if there is no space to do that. And this is something that the tribes experimented, community, and that are still sustaining some cultures. And I think that everything is taking us to that way, towards that way. But of course that also demands from us a level of growth, very important, so we can work things out, we can solve conflicts. This requires commitment with our own maturity and with our own path, and that commitment is going to be tested many times in our experience. But in the end, once we awakened to the consciousness, to that inner listening, and of course I am not referring to the mind fragmented, but the heart, trying to turn off that voice, evading, the path, or trying to escape from the circumstances that we need to go through, they are only going to produce suffering, a suffering that we don't have to judge, because it also teaches us from what does have a heart and what's not. So to close this message of today, the energy of Aries, which was the other sign that I was mentioning, refers to this independence that is related with opening unknown paths, experiences that we are going to transit for the first time, decisions that respond to the individual path, and they are going to be very different, probably from the path of other people, because even if we have resonance with others, or we could transit similar things, being the experience of being a fragment of the cosmos is precisely experimenting something particular in that identity as an expression of the Ein Sof, or the spirit, in these or other lives. So that's why Saturn and Neptune in Aries, in the focal point of this minor grand trine with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, are marking this time of opening to something very, very different that we have done, what we have experimented before, socially and individually. And probably, I believe pretty much in this, putting actions, intentions and actions, we could open the door for the Messianic era, for us and for the ones that are coming, the era where we are all recognizing that the master is inside, but also outside, in the experiences, in the challenges, in the people. And therefore, it cannot exist a master without an eternal apprentice willing to keep extracting light of what is not revealed yet, both coexisting in us. This is very Uranus in Gemini. So thank you, everyone. See you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.